emotion.
So again, music is temperature.
No, temperature. If you've got a temperature, a change in temperature is not as subtle as music, unless it's a small change in temperature.
Right.
But your body vibrates according to the energy of your body at that temperature. But if you introduce music to it, then it's a different kind of energy, but it's a much more subtler change. So it's like being tickled instead of hit. Say,
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's less of a fucking. It's a more subtle level of something, and it must stimulate something in your brain.
Yeah.
To release some agreeable fucking chemical, which actually sort of like says, this isn't a threat to me.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's like a loud noise or whatever. And it's interesting, it's funny actually that I was having a conversation with Tommy the other day about music being played in a certain bar and in town. And they changed the music policy for one day and they had someone come in and start playing drum and bass. Now that's not a relaxing vibe.
No.
That's not a vibe that's going to get people to stay in a bar.
No, not at all, man.
Bang, bang, you know what I mean? It requires a certain level of engagement with it to appreciate it and get anything out of it. And that level of engagement involves taking drugs and jumping about. You can't just sit still. You know what I mean? And it can be fucking boring and monotonous as well. And if your brain doesn't, you know, if it's
A drum and bass.
it's all right for a little bit.
Depends what bit you're in.
But when you listen to it all the fucking time,
Well, I think because you're lacking in melody. You see, melody, you've got different parts of music. You've got the rhythm, the beat, and your heart and your endocrine system will move.
That's what a frequency is anyway.
Yeah.
Well, spaces between the waves that are the same. Same thing.
Well, like you said,
when you
music.
get harmonics in music, you get harmony in it. Harmony is
It's not called that for no reason, is it?
no, if things are harmonious, then it's kind of like there's a specialness about that, isn't there? It's rare. It's rare for things to be in harmony with each other.
Well, that's why what he said about music resonates and certain things. You know, why does this chord resonate and it creates an emotion? And I'm saying why does a word create an emotion?
You to actually be in the state that you're in, without having to grow, without having to adjust, without having to. You can it takes your mind off all of that and allows you to actually just be in a state where your brain still can work, but it takes it to a different level because it's not fully focused on just the temperature or what you're sitting on or what you're wearing.
Or meaning of it.
Well,
Or how you're feeling because you're hungry.
well, all of them are feelings, aren't they?
Yeah.
All of them are
But the
sensations and
music
feelings.
thing is a different thing. It's
Music's a different feeling.
It's a distraction from all of that. And it allows your brain to work on a totally different level.
Well, it releases endorphins, doesn't it? Pleasure centre and all of that.
Yeah, but it can also reduce them. Like if you hear something that you're feeling about and you're thinking about that and you're thinking, oh yeah, that relates to what I'm feeling, or a chord that's like a minor chord, that makes you feel a bit like, not down, it doesn't make you depressed, but it has a different feeling invoking with that, not just endorphins. So it can invoke all sorts of like emotions, like you could have like, put some Rage Against the Machine on or something that gets you angry. You know, any emotion, you know, you can symbolise all of it in music. It's really interesting. It's weird how the sound can evoke that.
When it's not just the music then, it's what the music's saying because it's got words with it as well.
Yeah.
They're conveying a message in words.
Well, are all words emotive?
On what you understand of
Yeah, but like,
words.
what the difference
And
with words.
people who don't read have got a certain relationship with words. You know what I mean? They're governed by their emotional response to words, and most of the words they read are bullshit that's thrown by the fucking media.
Yeah.
And it's all associated with fucking hate and misery.
Well, it's
Whereas
newspeak,
if you read
isn't it?
books or you read things for pleasure, then your relationship with words is a different relationship. It's more of a constructive, proactive relationship where you're not actually frightened of the words because you've got an element of control over them. You can make sensible decisions about what they mean to you.
Yeah. Well, all this newspeak and political correctness, which is really, it's like copyrighting words, isn't it? If you say a certain word, they now claim the right to demand money for using that word, which they'll call a fine. But really, you know, it's the same as copyrighting a word, which is saying nobody's allowed to use that word anymore. But what are words? Words are expressions of an idea, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you can't express your idea, how are people going to be able to tell what you're thinking and also what you're feeling about what you're thinking?
Well, I think the difference between like words and music is words have meaning. So you hear that word and you think about what that meaning is and how you feel about that and where you've experienced that word being used before. But with music, you don't have to understand what it means. Like someone could be playing music in like Argentina or something. I don't speak the language, but I can still get a feeling from that. It's like I don't have to understand the language. Everyone is born understanding the language of music.
Yeah, so it is a universal language then, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think music's a universal language, Kev?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So.
It's a language of love, then.
Yeah.
I
So.
think even animals understand music. You put some music on, the animal just chills out and starts being relaxed. You know?
Do you think that it could be also to do with the habit of an animal? Say the owner plays EastEnders. There's been experiments where animals will respond then to music. When EastEnders starts, they'll run to the TV because in the pack mentality, that's when they see all the pack comes together and they, you know, the unity. So, you know, even an animal, and like you said the other day, the cat that will take care of, you know, the ducklings when the mother died, and that sense of family, and that they know these things. They know what family unit's all about. They understand the idea of the protection element.
Well, let's just try it. Yeah? I'm just going to play 30 seconds of this record.
Yeah.
Right, 30 seconds of this record, and let's just fucking think about how it affected us. You know what I mean? Like, what all the things that all the, you know, we're all going to have ideas about it and stuff. And make feel in a certain way. But what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to play the whole thing.
Like Jake was saying, you know, resonance.
It's really hard for me not
Dr.
to play
Freud,
the
is
whole
that it again?
thing. I can't fucking play the whole thing, man, because it's an experiment.
No, that's right. It's right. Yeah, I'd be interested
cut
to.
it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you do feel better, don't you? Because it's like, I like that. Because it's, I don't know, it's got something about it, hasn't it? It's different. Something that you wouldn't hear every day.
Well, no, you wouldn't hear it every day. I suppose in the context that we're taking it, it can be taken as it's a bit light-hearted.
So that why do they use music against us then? Why do they use, you know, all the music that is just fucking worse than lift music that gets played in the supermarket, gets played on the fucking radio, gets played on the fucking TV, and it's just so fucking narrow. Isn't that telling people, yeah, you've got to go out and do a little bit of work yourself. You've got to go out and find where the good shit is, because this, or maybe people actually believe that this is all there is of music. This is what music is, you know. And I really don't believe that people are that fucking stupid. You know what I mean? But people will just fucking.
Well, it comes down to access, doesn't it?
That shit. They'll fucking.
How many roads lead to Rome, and how many roads lead to independence? I suppose, you know. Because in the mainstream, why we call it the mainstream is because they have created a system of control, and these systems of control lead all the parts of the maze back to the same central authority. You know, the government, the mind control system. And mind control extends far beyond just the houses of Westminster.
Leading you in one direction, the mainstream, leading you down the one stream.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so,
And then, you know, the corporation itself, the extension of the government, you know, dictating and deciding the interests for the masses, really. That's the way that it's being run these days. And probably since forever it's always been run like that, but they were just better at the propaganda of the system, getting people to believe that this is what you want, this is what you like. But always, it wasn't with a choice. That's all that was available. You know, there's a world out there, but obviously you can't see the world. So we are nescient. You know, that means we just didn't know these things because that information wasn't available to us. Because on our level of being aware, you know, we were only aware of what we can get access to, and this is why money is a key.
Music as well, because music isn't, you know, fundamental to survival. You don't need that to live. You know, you just need to eat and work. And
well, who says that? Who says music isn't essential
to your like physical survival? You know, you don't have music if
I don't know, because
you don't die. It's not like, it's like that's what's good about it. It takes you away from that necessity to live.
Okay.
And you can forget about that now. You don't need to be constantly
Is
thinking about where you're
music
getting
not
the next paycheck.
essential to survival? That's a big question, though.
It is now in society, in civilization. But what I'm saying is, you don't need that before then. So the idea of music is kind of like, it can take you away from all the thinking about and worrying about whether you're going to eat tomorrow, or worrying about your next paycheck so you can get enough food or clothes on your back or whatever. You don't need to think about that with music.
So how do you feel now the music stopped?
Well, obviously we was in a mode of discussion, so
Yeah.
I suppose, like you say, music clears the air, doesn't it? Either you could be ignoring the music and continue with the conversation.
It permeates throughout the fucking whole room, and it unites, doesn't it? As well. It's a unified experience that everybody can have.
It doesn't matter what your differences are.
Well,
You can enjoy it.
is speech, and this kind of relates to the freedom of speech, is that also something that permeates
It
and
creates sound vibrations.
and it gets a message across. So the right to speak, the right to assemble, the freedom of speech, the fact that you are naturally born with the ability to speak, even cry as a baby. If you couldn't cry, you wouldn't be here, would you? You know, you wouldn't be able to tell your mother whether you was hot, cold, hungry, need your nappy changing, whatever. Those are needs. So it's almost a human need to be able to speak. Communication. It's a need. You need that.
So maybe we should be going to the Weatherspoons pub then, isn't it? Because you can actually hear yourself talking there.
Yeah.
I just talk myself completely out of the fucking job. And
No. They do need music. They used to have music in there, and then the whole atmosphere died. The smoking ban and this so-called noise pollution, which is a load of rubbish. You know, it has to be 95 dBA, and they have to be able to measure that scientifically with an SPL meter. You know what I mean? And it's not like it's in a residential area, it's in town, the centre of town, and these areas are known to put on entertainment and things. Yet people go to live there because there are all these fashionable, trendy yuppies who basically, they're the bosses of the companies. They can afford the expensive rent, and they can't be asked getting out of bed. They just want to slip out of bed at 5 to 9 and get into work in the office and make out like they've been there all morning doing some hard graft.
well, that's a bit that's a bit of an extreme view on it, but it could be.
Are the rents cheap? You know, so some will be students. Don't get me wrong.
Are you talking about night and day now?
No, not specifically, but that's a good example you could mention. No, you see, one person's music is to that person then noise, because he's not anticipating, expecting, or wanting it. But then you've got to ask yourself, well, what human being doesn't want a bit of noise now and then, or even come to expect that noise is a natural thing?
I've got the same problem with my neighbour, because he's saying that, you know, we're too fucking noisy. because we play music and stuff, and it doesn't agree with him because it's at the wrong time of day or night for him because he runs on a different schedule to us.
Right. So, but he's not unified, is he, with your ideas? He
I'm
has.
not unified with his ideas
Yeah.
equally and oppositely. Do you know what I mean? It's an equal and opposite thing. You've got to deal with it like that because on a level, you know, to be fair, he's got just as much right to complain about music as I've got to play it.
Yeah, but is that as far as it goes? Because, you know, you have human rights, you have human liberties. We have the right to speak.
That.
If I had a baby,
I
you can't control when the baby cries. The baby will cry, and he might just get upset that you've got a baby and your baby's crying too much. It would be classed under the same thing.
On the same side of the coin, he's got a problem with his dog because his dog's not well.
Right.
And it makes a lot of noise because of it in the morning, in particular when he's not there.
Right.
And that can wake us up, and that has an effect on us.
So the idea that noise is a natural
it's
thing.
It's about tolerance. You have to be tolerant.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be tolerant, and you have to be respectful in order to proceed with your life without becoming depressed by it. Now, when he came round and knocked on my door and told me that he was getting depressed because of it, I was like,
what the hell?
I know what that feels like, being depressed. I don't want to be depressing anybody. Do you know what I mean? Because I respect that totally. I'm not going to fucking push it because of that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I suffer from depression when I'm not playing music.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. It's what I love doing, and it's the only fucking release that I've got from being in pain all the fucking time.
Well, I read the other day, right, in one of the, I think it was the Metro. Yeah, I think it was the Metro is talking about this generation. Two things to mention. This generation is known as the depressed generation. That's what they you know put. I mean, the Metro is just full of propaganda. They never get to the why. They never get to why people they just quote these random facts.
Throw shit out there.
Yeah.
Throw shit out there.
And it's sticking to the ignorant who've got all these little gaps and grooves in their information, and that's what fills their information gap.
False information as well.
Yeah, total false information. You know, you see people's concept of words, like you're saying. They don't even grasp the meaning of words, or when the meaning of words has changed based upon its use, or who's the author of that word, who's saying that, and what do they particularly mean? Like the words can and can, you know?
See, I can turn it off.
If practically every word we've got in English has an alternative meaning.
Yeah.
Or it can be construed in a different way.
Yeah.
There's shades of meaning.
And one word can have two opposite meanings, like the word clear. If something's clear and it's like you can see through it, it's kind of like it's clear then. It's obvious to you.
Yeah.
It's showing you the information clearly. Yeah. But also to clear something up.
Yeah. So there's nothing there, so it'd be empty.
Meanings, you know, but it's the same word.
Yeah. Yeah. Because obviously the only way you can be informed is if something is there. If there's nothing there, then you are not going to be informed.
You don't clear it up, make it clear.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the same thing?
It can be, and I think it is, because both conditions exist simultaneously, and only through deduction, only through asking a question, especially if you're unsure, could you get an answer.
But every word that you understand is every word that you speak, every word that you think about is it's causing a reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
the point of it.
It's yeah.
Yeah, but get back to what you said about music, and music resonates, and you know, let's talk about evolution. You know, and the idea that's really, it's a theory.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Just like anything else.
But it's taken as scientific fact, and this is the problem I have with it. If they came into school and said, "Here we have another theory, another religion for you to look at," and you know, it's a belief system of some.
It's a model. It's a model that fits best.
Yeah.
You don't have another model that's better than it scientifically.
Oh well,
So
when
it
it comes to the words best or
true.
better.
Yeah, it fits most logically, and that's it. But it's not like that's definitely hard truth. It's just that for now, we don't have a better explanation for it. That's all.
Well, when you say we,
A scientist.
those that started the information off, and those that shared that information through writings and teachings and various things. What I'm looking at though today is the fact that it's promoted continually as if that's the basis of fact, and therefore we're looking at, from the evidential point of view, I'm doing an experiment, and the results are based on this is, almost like this is fact, so this will go to support that fact. When, hold on, the underlying facts to prove that any of that exists has not yet been proven. So you're now building on top of sand, because your original idea was not a strong idea. It wasn't rock. It was a sand-like shifting idea. And what you find with evolution is that over time, from the textbooks were first written and mentioned these things, the amount of information on evolution has got bigger and bigger and bigger, and in the textbook that you have to suddenly learn, right? And we'll say time has caused that, but at the same time, the dates have also changed. So when they used to think that the universe came from something that was a few thousand kilometers across back in the early days, when they talk about cosmic evolution, because again, there's lots of types of evolution. You've got cosmic evolution, the Big Bang Theory. Where did the whole universe come from? They say it came from, today, a dot, a tiny infinitesimal dot, a singularity, nothingness. Nothing exploded. But earlier on, they used to say a dot the size of a full stop on a page, and before that it was something, a few hundred miles across, and then before that it was something a few thousand miles. So those ideas are constantly changing.
So what about this? What about this, right? I was at the pub the other day, and someone was talking to me, and they were saying that they're a scientist, right? And they said they're a scientist, and they work for some chemical company or something.
A chemist.
Maybe a chemist, maybe not. Might be a mechanical engineer. You know what I mean? Engineers are scientists, they use science as well. But, what is a scientist? Do you know what I mean? And can you call yourself a scientist if you work for somebody else?
Right, well, we were discussed it yesterday, the word conscience and science.
Yeah.
Science is like with knowledge.
Science is just another word.
Conscience is with knowledge.
They obviously want to label
science being the word knowledge.
They got the
Latin word for knowledge.
From their education. They got the label from their education. Science means...
Right, but again, the education was based on theories and not facts.
I think
and everybody since that time, no one's gone back and said, well, are these facts that we can even start to, build a career on and make actual physical things?
Well, coming back to being a scientist, I think if you're a scientist, it means that you use scientific method in order to come to a conclusion. I think that's what would make you a scientist, not just because you practice science on a daily basis. Although you can still be a scientist if you do that, as long as you use the scientific method.
Yeah, the ability to get knowledge. You have a knowledge of something, then you will do your experiment to test
in that particular way.
Doesn't that go back to the thing we were talking about the other day about the elephants and about the rats? Like elephants. It was interesting what Dave was saying about rats not being considered intelligent because they didn't go back to the porthole which they were allowed to go through, but it was shocked because they get a shock and they didn't ever want that to happen again, so they didn't push against it, they didn't go against it again. Whereas an elephant will push and push against an electric fence because it thinks, well, this is something that's preventing me from doing this, so there's got to be something beyond that which is worth getting to. Well, and it was interesting for me as well because from the point of view of pain, right? Because I suffer a lot of fucking pain, and sometimes to push against what's hurting reduces the pain because then I'll get something will fucking click into place where it's been out of fucking joint for a while or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And I was saying to Jake earlier, sometimes the worst pain that I get is just before I get relief because my back clicks back into place or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it fucking hurts like hell before it does it.
But the idea that a reward lies beyond anything that we may have to persevere through.
So an analogy for that would be the fucking whole system at the moment, how it's all designed up to fucking create pain for people just in order to fucking live, because you can't get the money any other way and well, any way at all without actually fucking putting yourself through all kinds of horrible shit that you don't want to go through necessarily. And you know, really we should be just doing the things necessarily that we need, like you say, growing food and stuff and being communities. And that's all been taken away from us, and we've allowed it to be taken away from us by living in cities and not.
That's why when you use the word citizens.
And yet we're all together in one place, but we can't work together.
Yeah.
We can't do things together. And there's laws that prevent us from doing that.
Well, not so much laws. There's people following rules.
People following rules that prevent you from doing that shit. But you know,
but those rules actually break, contravene.
You can sidestep all that.
All sorts of laws.
Get on with it. I've grown shit.
Including human rights.
You know what I mean? I'm going to grow fucking stuff. Sure.
Yeah, your tomatoes and things, and your potatoes and leeks and all sorts will grow in this country. Swedes, we won't get the tropical things, but there are ways.
The joy of realisation and just satisfaction that you've actually done that and provided something for yourself through nature and not relying on Tesco's
or anyone.
Do you know what I mean? It's like suddenly you feel independent.
Yeah, well, this is what they fear the most. Go back to what you were saying about oil and oil running out.
Yeah.
You know, well, you were saying say what you were saying in your words. Rather than me saying
I was saying that like the whole system's built on infinite growth, when as in reality, nothing can be infinite. There is no infinite amount of anything in the real world. And with oil,
we only need a finite amount of everything anyway. You know what I mean?
Exactly, but there's no alternative to oil. Everything's made either out of oil or produced using a machine that runs
because the way things are geared up.
Yeah, exactly. But it is geared that way, and that's a fact.
Well, if there was no oil suddenly, what, are we that fucking useless that we wouldn't be able to find an alternative way of getting on with shit?
But society would have to change in a massive way to compensate for that. Because
isn't that a good thing? It's like if you like you're saying about cutting a plant. If you cut a plant and you distress a plant, it will then, if you cut a branch off a plant, 2 more branches will grow in its place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But
also,
we were saying
with oil and food as well, that's the real problem, is that all the nutrients that they spray on the crops are based on oil. So once that starts running out, the food starts running out, and then big companies will come in and profit from the lack of food. And then
well, they're already making measures towards that with that Soylent Green and things like that. They brought out that Soylent.
Only if we allow it to happen.
Well, the people are forced to allow it to happen because of going back to money and unlimited exponential growth. We have a profit system that when people
don't understand their basic responsibilities as human beings on a simple level, and if it was
the ability to respond,
if people did understand that, then life would be so much simpler for everybody, because there'd be a commonality of purpose about everybody. That actually, you know, what is right and wrong? You know, simple, isn't it?
Can it be tested and measured?
Well, you know, there's plenty of fucking evidence all around you, isn't there?
Oh yeah. I know this, but there's a lot of people out there that feel that they alone have the truth. You know, they own the truth somehow, and that everybody else, their version of truth is not truth.
How would you measure right and wrong then? Because I'm pretty sure I know. But
I'd say there are eternal virtues, right? And I think the easiest, simplest way to measure things is a way that everybody can understand it. Because if it can't be universally known, we've got a big problem, haven't we?
Yeah.
So if we simplify the information, make it like a baby could even understand it. And you consider what we teach babies as adults, the way we would talk to a baby. We simplify our words, we simplify our emotions, simplify everything. So it is quite clear in a yes and no sense of things, rather than there's grey areas. We don't tend to go into the grey areas, but we as adults know that we grow and we ask questions and we start to...
consensus then, isn't it? It's measured through.
I don't like this word consensus, because you shouldn't agree with me, not just off the bat. No one should agree with anyone just like that. Like you said, scientists will test and prove and measure things. Well, we've got to be scientific about all things, all concepts, all ideas. Yeah. Every thought we ever had and every emotion we have about the thought. Wrong? Is the truth wrong?
Well, no, by definition.
By the definition of the word you're using, no. But can someone's version of the truth be wrong? In other words, can someone tell you a lie and say, that's the truth, though? Yeah, that can be wrong. Because that will be proven by fact. So using the word truth doesn't make it true.
The truth itself isn't wrong, though.
No, because it's an eternal virtue. It's something that will be true yesterday, today, and forever.
So that's how you judge what's right and wrong, you know. But it takes a lot of... It takes discussion, it takes thought, and sometimes it doesn't take anything at all, because you know instinctively what the truth is about things. And people have had their fucking instinct for the truth
removed. They've been living in the artificiality.
It's like there's a wall between you and the truth.
They're in a womb, like the Matrix. They're living in this very protective bubble of life and securities. You know, so they've got their job, they've got their pension, they've got their boss, they've got their car, the route to work, they've got their 2.4 children, their wife, and their mortgage. And to them, all of that is them being in control, because they see others doing that, and that's the way it's supposed to be. They've never fathomed the fact that before mortgages existed, people built houses.
That word, supposed, yeah?
Yeah.
What is that word, supposed?
What
does it mean?
Well, it's an assumption, isn't it? It's guesswork. It's faith, belief.
So if you do everything that you do during the day is based on an assumption,
yeah,
or is it based on your
truth and fact?
Your pursuit of the truth of what you need for that day.
Well, those are natural laws, aren't they? The natural law, going back to the baby, it cries when it's hungry, it cries when it needs to sleep. It'll let you know through its basic communication. And so talking is a need.
So why
freedom of speech is a need.
Why is it then?
The ability to say, I'm in alarm or distress.
Explain this to me then, right? Okay, I used to be a teacher, and I've been there, all right? And I had this conversation with someone who still is a teacher, and God bless them, you know what I mean? Because it's a fucking hard job to do. And a lot of people do that job for the right reasons. And what are the right reasons, I don't know. But there comes a time in every teacher's career that at some point during the year, they find themselves raising their voice to children and shouting at them because they want them to do something.
Yeah.
Like, or they need to get their attention or whatever. And you know, it just gets that way. You know, the best teacher in the world has been through that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's me, but I've seen some fucking excellent teachers. Do you know what I mean? And I know that there are teachers that try not to do it, but there are times when it happens. Yeah. Because, and it's just
the exuberance of youth.
It's disagreeable.
Well, what is
doing that, and it goes against everything that you fucking believe in.
Well, I'll ask a question to try and answer a question. What is?
But it's a construct. It's an artificial situation.
Yeah, but what
you put in because you have to do this job. You have to communicate this information, but you're not communicating at all. You're actually destroying the information by doing that, because it's like you've invalidated everything that you're trying to do by doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I was going to say, I'll try and answer a question by asking a question. What, therefore, is the best way we could ruin a child and their concept of things like right and wrong, truth and justice, you know,
by not ever being plain and open with them about it, and not apologising, and by not necessarily apologising, but explaining where it is that you're coming from, and then giving them an opportunity to respond to that. Do you know what I mean?
Would you say most parents think that boundaries of behaviour for children,
especially with children, Do you know what I mean? It's got to be a two-way street, hasn't it? Education.
Well,
Otherwise it's
we
not
put
ever gonna
boundaries
work.
on children's behaviour because we know, like Mark Passio said, a child of 2 years will not understand that gravity will take them over the cliff and they will die. So the parent's duty of care and caring for that child is to prevent that. So they will be doing things for a child that you don't necessarily do with an adult, because with an adult you can speak to an adult, you can warn them of the dangers, and they can respond in kind for themselves. Yeah, which goes back to what I was reading
Most
about
adults,
traveling
there's some
today,
adults that
because
can't fucking
when
do
it comes to traveling, one of the things police will say, because there's a maximum of law that says if they ignore the danger, right, and it went down to who was liable. Say someone was on a train track and you had to save that person on the train track, right? If there was a liability against the company that ran the train company, right, for the victim, the person who was on the train track who was about to be run over, then also for the person who was doing the saving. You understand? Because they have that duty, because if you can see something and foresee a danger. So a lot of police will use that idea that when they say stop someone, say, oh, you haven't got tax and insurance, they foresaw a danger. They're preventing something that could possibly happen. It could be a danger. It's not necessarily you've caused anything.
You haven't got lights on your bike.
Right. Well, let's look at it like that. You haven't got lights on your bike, so you could hurt someone. But in those circumstances,
You're not wearing your seatbelt.
in those circumstances, all right. In those circumstances,
is that a crime?
no, it's not a crime. It's just something that they should be coming with. I just want to give you some advice. You forgot your seatbelt or your lights aren't on. That's it. That's fine. We can remedy that. Even with insurance. I've checked your insurance. Oh, it seems to not be running, because administrative errors do occur. And when they do occur, that's not your fault.
You get your car taken off you and it gets crushed.
Yeah,
because your insurance was in.
Right, but that is an administrative error. That's got nothing to do with any crime being committed.
But they still take your car off you. This happened to a friend of mine in London.
Yeah, but that's unlawful. That's unlawful because there is no
They took
crime.
the car and they destroyed the car.
Yeah.
Because they haven't paid some tax.
Well, they had this thing ages ago when they started bringing the sawn in and saying everybody had to do a sawn, because before that, if you were, as long as your car wasn't on the road and you did a sawn.
I ignore that shit. Let them come to me. Let them come to me. Let the man come to me.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is they'll use the fact that they're being your buddy, you know, and they're also being a good Samaritan. I think it's called the Good Samaritan Clause or something like that. Basically, they are trying to help somebody. And there's nothing wrong with trying to keep people safe or things like that, but you can't force anything. No crime has been committed. And if you're informing somebody, you know, oh, your lights have gone out, that's it, that's fine. Anybody, any stranger could do that. However, the police go beyond that measure. Yeah, everybody's got a duty. Every human being you'll find has a duty that if they saw someone else in danger, right, and they could have prevented that, and they failed to act, they can be sued.
Yeah.
Because they have that liability. But if they are in the act of saving somebody, you know, say that the train is barreling down, the signal's not operating, and the signal should have been operating, and someone's in the tracks, and you say you're on the bridge and you can see the trains coming around the bend, but the person who's on the tracks can't see the trains coming around the bend, but you can also see the lights are out, and you've got plenty of time to either shout or get there or, you know, get him out of the way or whatever. But in the course of doing that, you yourself are injured, you can still claim compensation. But if, for example, people knew, say you was a police officer on duty and you could see somebody, this is why they've got to help people and rescue people in dangerous situations.
Being on duty, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're all on duty.
But then make it think that you're not.
No, it's just their exclusive right or something. It's not.
And yet they're getting paid. They're getting monetary fiscal
reward
for, like a teacher gets paid monetary reward for doing what, you know, supposedly is a service to you.
But is it something that you would do naturally? Do we teach our children?
Does any parent actually understand or know or believe in what their child is being taught and how they're being taught and how it's affecting them? on all kinds of levels. All kinds of levels.
Most don't. I mean, we are victims ourselves, and as I suppose school addicts, because it was almost an addiction. You had to go there every day. You have to go there every day. It's like an addiction, isn't it?
No,
Only if you feel a compulsion.
You get teachers. Right?
Well, I don't feel the compulsion necessarily, but they've made it compulsory.
Right.
So they are the drug addicts. They're the ones who are peddling services and things. You know.
Well, yeah.
The thing is, though, right? Well, no, I didn't even say that.
Go on.
The thing is, though, I'm fucking giving up already, isn't it?
It's just a discussion.
There are teachers, right, who become teachers straight out of education. They don't have any other experience apart from the education system. Now, that must be great for the government, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, straight from A levels to uni to teaching college to school, but they've never ever lived outside the school domain. So rules like walk on the left when you're in school and don't run are the law to them. They've never been outside of that and realised that not everybody's asking you to do that. Not everybody's asking you to wear a blazer. You know, that's just a rule.
So they've been institutionalised.
Yeah.
And what happens when you've been institutionalised?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All these mental prisons that are possible
funny,
to escape
I've
from.
seen it happen. Those are the teachers that get fast tracked.
What, up the ranks, you mean?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it, man. I've seen it. Jesus Christ.
don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? It's like
The people start with fraud by frauding themselves. Like we say in the con game, the confidence. You want to gain your confidence so that you will trust them. And they're in positions of trust as trustees of public servants, fiduciary trustees, you know, the ones that deal with the money or have access to money or decisions to do with money, which is quite a lot of them. A lot of people at the job centre are kind of fiduciary trustees. But when the law says something clear like you are entitled to this amount of money, say £100 per week, although it's not that, and you know you are entitled to this amount of money to live by law, then the opposite of that or any deduction from that is less than what it is required to live. And so the opposite of living is being dead. So the reason for stopping any well, let me get to this. The reason therefore for stopping it must be for the opposite of what the reason for getting it is, which is to make you dead, not alive, which would be an unlawful killing using their administration, which is why we've been going on for so long that their administration is the fascism. That's the way it's rolled out. That's the way they propagandize it. John Major, shrewd though he was, everybody thought he was an idiot. No, he was preparing the ground for things like 9/11 and things like that by saying, you can't say this word no more because it'll hurt somebody's feelings, you know? And when the European Union was starting to make rulings on whether your banana could be sold because it had to be a certain straightness or something, which was just stupidity. But the point was to see, will the people put up with stupidity?
Yeah.
If they'll put up with stupidity, they'll put up with anything then, won't they? Yeah. If we say they've got to all wear clown shoes to work on Monday and make it law and then start fining people.
That's a great idea. Let's write a list of all the things that you put up with, man.
Yeah,
list of...
These are things that they profiteer from. Like when the police stop you, right, driving, you have the common law right to travel. You also have the freedom of movement, right?
Bad news for you, Kev. Your book's not big enough.
It's not, is it?
I can make a fucking start.
Just about chapter 1.
Yeah. So when the police are stopping you, yeah,
I've got something to do
under these colours of law, the only reason the police can actually ever go into a vehicle, even Black's Law will say this, Black's Law edition 9 has changed considerably since version 1, where they've added things, but it doesn't take away from the traditional meaning of the words, right? things can mean lots of different things.
You got me lighter?
Yeah. So the words like highwayman, okay, someone who demands money on the road or makes threats to demand money off you. Now this is exactly what the police are doing. Also the word piracy, again, people who have been attacked or boarded whilst travelling, and that's obviously coming from the maritime side of things. But you see, the maritime laws are actually the ones being used on the people on dry land. You got words like Traffic Act, Road Traffic Act. The word traffic is to do with drugs, the movement of drugs, where they say drug trafficker, and there's trafficking going on. So they got the law says they're only allowed to search your vehicle if they suspect you of trafficking, which is moving drugs.
Does that then,
or contraband?
Does that then allow a police officer?
But they have to have knowledge.
Yeah. Does that then allow a police officer to use physical force to restrain someone in a way which is harmful to that person, simply because they've got a little bag of white powder, which hasn't been proved to be drugs, but looks suspiciously like drugs? Because they were publicising that on the telly last night. Some poor guy had his hands up behind his back in handcuffs, and he was in pain. You could hear he was in pain. Those noises he was making were pain noises.
Well, you remember the photos of Mark Duggan?
Does that entitle a police officer to cause pain to somebody even before they've been tried?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
And in fact, does anyone have the right, even after someone's been, isn't that capital punishment?
No.
To cause pain,
Again, because
who was that guy, right? What was the act where the guy saw someone being flogged and he went into Parliament and they passed a law, and it was the habeas corpus, wasn't it? Wasn't that where it came from?
You talk about the king.
I'm talking about
The knights who would refuse to pay the taxes.
No. There was some slave who was up for sale the next day, and the slave's master was giving him a good flogging in public view. This is in the 1800s or something.
Oh, you lost me now.
Because he was up for sale the next day. That was the guy's answer. I can't remember the name of it. What was it now? It wasn't Buckland. No, it was. What was it now? Shit. Anyway. It's just fucking bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pardon me. Can we have a break from the camera for a bit?
Yeah.